Hi there and welcome to today's vlog. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to return to a subject that I have addressed previously, but I'm not making an apology for that because it is I think a really important subject. And the reason that I want to return to it is that I've been doing a bit of ongoing sorting out and through some of my files and papers, and I came across a letter that was written, well, it's written in 2003. In May 2003. It was written by Reverend Rob Frost. Rob Frost was director of Share Jesus International. He was a Methodist minister, but set apart by the Methodist Church to engage in and encourage the church in evangelism and sharing the gospel. And he set up an organisation called Share Jesus International. They encouraged groups to go and engage in mission within churches in different places. They used to select a particular area, then encouraging churches to invite a Share Jesus team to come into their church and work alongside them in sharing the gospel with the local community. Excuse me. And also Rob Frost used to organise an annual Christian gathering called Easter People, which is a fantastic gathering around, obviously, Easter, where people used to come together in worship and teaching and learning and fellowship and really encouraging each other so that they could go back to their own churches to encourage and share what they've learnt and been taught. And I think it must have been after a Share Jesus mission that we had at our church in Doncaster that I wrote to Rob Frost. And in those days you actually wrote letters, not sent emails and stuff, although you probably did send emails. But anyway, I wrote a letter and thank Rob for his work and for sending the team. I haven't got a copy of the original letter that I wrote, but I presume that was the gist of it. And Rob took the time to write back to me and to thank me for the letter. He said, "I've read your comments carefully and was most encouraged by your words." And then he goes on to say, and I find this really sad, "After events like Easter People, we always get a raft of negative letters. So yours came as a great blessing at the end of a stressful week." So Rob was really writing to say thank you for a letter that I'd sent that had been a letter of encouragement and of thanks. And the fact that he says that after events like Easter People, which brought great blessing to thousands of people, they always got a raft of negative letters, people complaining, people moaning. And it's sad, isn't it, that that seems to be increasingly what happens these days. Whatever someone says, whether it be a government minister, a leader of this group or that group, someone in the sporting world, someone making a comment on issues, almost immediately there's people jumping on their back, moaning, complaining, arguing against it, rather than just receiving it, thinking about it and responding with thoughtful comments. People so slow to encourage, it seems, but so quick to criticise and complain. I mentioned a few vlogs ago a book that I'd been reading that I just finished now by a guy called Matt Summerfield called Don't Make History, Change the Future. Really good book. I'd recommend that. And I was very interested to read how he wrote about an experiment that a professor called Dr. Elizabeth Hurlock had conducted to see what impact different kinds of feedback would have on the maths performance of 10 and 11-year-olds. She wanted to find out if it was more effective to praise, to criticise, or to ignore pupils. Every day the pupils were given a test, and every day they were given feedback on their results. The children were split into 3 groups. One group was praised, one group was criticised, and one group was ignored. By the end of the week, the group who were being praised had improved their maths performance by 71%. That just shows you the the power of praise and encouragement. The group who were constantly criticised had only improved their performance by 19%. And interestingly, the group who were completely ignored had only improved their performance by 5%. So it's actually the group who were completely ignored who fared worse in terms of trying to improve their maths test results. The group who were constantly criticised did improve, but only by a relatively small margin, whereas those who were encouraged, those who were praised, increased their maths performance massively. The power of encouragement, the power of praise. And that's a message, apart from anything else, to parents. If we are constantly jumping on the back of our children, criticising them, then that's going to have such a negative effect on their self-understanding, their morale, their confidence. In fact, I may have mentioned that the Vice President of the Methodist Conference, Carolyn Lawrence, talked in her vice presidential address about the really devastating effect criticism had on her young life and has had over the years as an adult. There's a guy who appears in the Acts of the Apostles called Joseph. He was from Cyprus. Though we don't know him as Joseph, we know him as Barnabas. That was the name he was given. Why? Because Barnabas means son of encouragement. Isn't that fantastic that he was given a name to reflect the character, the nature of the person he was? He was an encourager. And the first time we meet him in Acts of the Apostles is in chapter 4, where we're told he sold a field that he owned and gave the whole proceeds to the apostles to use in their work of helping those who were struggling at that time. So a great encouragement. And we see as the journey continues through Acts that Barnabas, in many different situations, comes along to encourage, to build up, to support. And I'm sure that Paul appreciated that. And so there's no wonder that he wrote later on to the Thessalonian Christians, encourage one another and build each other up. That's the message, that we need to be encouragers. We don't need to say everything's fine if it isn't, but we need to do our level best to speak words of encouragement. That maybe just be a simple thank you to someone. Tonight, as I record this, it's going to be 5 p.m, a nationwide applause for the NHS on its 70th birthday. You'll be watching this a couple of days later, but sometimes when we can express thanks for something someone's done, maybe it is a simple thing. If we can speak a word of encouragement, not just to children, but to anyone we come across, the person serving us at the checkout, whoever it may be. Let's be encouragers. Let's be what God wants us to be. Not to pull down, but to build up, to encourage. So God bless you, and thank you so much for watching today.